Have you ever wondered how one man changed the way the world moves? How a simple idea turned into a revolution, a big and important change that shaped the modern world. This is the story of Henry Ford, the man who made cars affordable for everyone and transformed the way we live. His journey was filled with hard work, failures, and incredible successes that still influence our lives today. Today, we are going to explore his incredible journey. And if you are here to learn English, you're in the right place. As we go through his story, you'll hear new words, and I'll help you understand them. So, sit back, relax, and let's begin. Henry Ford was born on July 30th, 1863, in a small farmhouse in Greenfield Township, Michigan, USA. His father, William Ford, was a farmer, and his mother, Mary Ford, took care of the family. Life on the farm was simple, but young Henry was different. He was not interested in farming. Instead, he was fascinated by machines. As a boy, Henry loved taking things apart: clocks, watches, and even farm equipment. He wanted to understand how they worked. His father hoped that he would take over the family farm one day, but Henry had other dreams. He was more interested in gears and engines than in growing crops. At the age of 16, Henry left home and moved to the city of Detroit to work as an apprentice, a person learning a skill from an expert in a machine shop. It was hard work, but he was excited. He was finally close to the machines he loved so much. He spent hours watching, learning, and improving his skills. He knew that one day, he would create something that would change the world. In those days, cars did not exist. People used horses and carriages to travel. Roads were dusty and slow, and travel was difficult. But then in the late 1800s, something amazing happened. The invention of the gasoline engine, a machine that burns fuel to create power. This engine could power a vehicle, and Henry saw its potential. It was the beginning of a new era. In 1888, Henry married Clara Bryant, and they had a son, Edsel. He worked hard to support his family, but he never stopped dreaming about building a car. After years of working in different machine shops, he got a job at the Edison Illuminating Company, where he met the great inventor Thomas Edison. Edison encouraged Henry to follow his dream of building a car. With renewed energy, Henry set out to turn his ideas into reality. Finally, in 1896, after years of hard work, Henry built his first car, the quadricycle. It had 4 bicycle wheels and a small engine, and it could move without a horse. It was a great achievement. But Henry was not satisfied. He wanted to build something bigger and better. He dreamed of a car that ordinary people could own. He started the Detroit Automobile Company, but it failed. The cars were too expensive, and people didn't buy them. But Henry did not give up. He learned from his mistakes and tried again. In 1903, he founded the Ford Motor Company. This time, he had a new plan. Instead of making expensive cars for the rich, he wanted to build affordable cars for everyone. In 1908, he introduced the Model T, the car that changed history. The Model T was simple, reliable, something you can trust, and cheap compared to other cars. Suddenly, ordinary people could afford a car, and life changed forever. Towns expanded, businesses grew, and families could travel like never before. But there was still a problem. Making cars by hand was slow and expensive. Henry needed a faster way, and so he created the assembly line, a system where workers do one small part of a big job. Instead of one worker building a whole car, each worker did just one task. This made production much faster and cheaper. By using machines and dividing labor, Henry Ford revolutionized manufacturing. By 1914, The Ford Motor Company was making thousands of cars every day. Henry even decided to pay his workers more money so they could afford to buy the cars they built. It was a revolutionary idea. Workers were happier, production increased, and the Ford Company grew even bigger. The Model T became the most popular car in the world. By the 1920s, more than half the cars on the road were Fords. People could travel farther, live in new places, and explore the world like never before. The automobile industry boomed, and other companies followed Henry Ford's ideas. But Henry Ford's success did not mean he never failed. He made mistakes. He refused to change the Model T for too long, and other car companies caught up. His competitors started making better, more stylish cars. Ford still believed in simple and affordable cars, but the world was changing. His son Edsel tried to introduce new ideas, but Henry resisted. It was only after Edsel's death that Ford finally changed his ways. In his later years, Henry stepped back from the company and watched as his ideas continued to shape the world. He saw cars become faster, more powerful, and more modern. When he passed away in 1947, he left behind a legacy, something valuable left for future generations, that still lives on today. His ideas about mass production are still used in factories worldwide. Henry Ford didn't just build cars. He built a new way of life. His story is a reminder that success comes from hard work, learning from failure, and never giving up. No matter how big your dream is, if you keep moving forward, you can change the world. Even today, the Ford Motor Company continues to produce millions of cars, keeping Henry Ford's dream alive. His vision shaped not just the automobile industry, but also the way we work, travel, and live. As the years passed, Henry Ford's impact on the world only grew. His company continued to innovate, introduce new ideas, producing cars that were faster, safer, and more efficient. But his greatest contribution wasn't just the cars. It was the idea that progress should be for everyone, not just the rich. His vision changed the way people worked, traveled, and even thought about the future. In the 1930s, as competition increased, Henry Ford faced new challenges. Other car companies introduced modern designs and better technology, and the Model T was no longer the king of the road. Henry was slow to accept change, but eventually, the Ford Motor Company adapted. New models were introduced, and the company regained its strength. However, the transition was not easy. Henry still believed in his original methods, and he was reluctant to abandon his old ways. It took time, but the company finally evolved, proving that even the strongest must adapt to survive. However, Henry Ford's personal life was marked by tragedy. His beloved son, Edsel Ford, passed away in 1943. This was a deep loss for Henry, and it took a toll and negative effect on his health. Edsel had been a key figure in modernizing the company, and his absence left a significant gap. Many believe that Henry should have allowed his son more freedom in decision-making, as Edsel had pushed for innovations that Henry resisted. With his strength fading, he handed over control of the company to his grandson, Henry Ford II, ensuring that his legacy would continue. The younger Henry Ford took charge with fresh ideas, leading the company into a new era. On April 7, 1947, Henry Ford passed away at the age of 83. The world mourned the loss of a man who had changed the way people lived, traveled, and worked. He was not just a businessman. He was a visionary, someone who had big and important ideas, who believed in making life better for everyone. His death marked the end of an era, but his influence was far from over. The systems he created and the ideas he promoted remained deeply embedded in the industrial world. But his story doesn't end there. Today, the Ford Motor Company is still one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world. His assembly line method is used in factories everywhere, from making cars to producing smartphones. His belief in affordable transportation helped shape modern cities and industries. The effects of his innovations can be seen in the way products are mass-produced across all industries. Without Ford's vision, we might still be living in a world where only the rich could afford technology and modern conveniences. Beyond business, Henry Ford also left behind a social impact. He believed in paying fair wages, which led to his famous decision to pay workers $5 a day, a move that shocked the business world but ultimately increased productivity and loyalty. His efforts helped shape modern labor practices, proving that treating workers well was not just ethical but also profitable. However, he was not without controversy. Some of his personal views were criticized, and he faced opposition in many areas. Yet, despite his flaws, his contributions to society remain undeniable. Henry Ford's journey teaches us that great things take time. He faced failure, criticism, and setbacks, but he never gave up. His story is proof that with hard work, determination, and a willingness to learn, we can achieve anything. The world is full of challenges, but as Ford showed us, obstacles are simply opportunities to improve and grow. So, as we come to the end of this incredible journey, remember, every big idea starts with a small step. Keep dreaming, keep learning, and who knows, maybe one day you'll change the world too. Just like Henry Ford, your ideas and efforts could leave a lasting impact on future generations. The road to success is never easy, but with persistence and vision, you can go further than you ever imagined.